design, and they're soon enough going to go online, and that's really, really exciting, and I hope somehow we can all be a part of it. Mrinalini also trained as an architect with an undergraduate in architecture, went on to become the editor of Mondo, which if you guys have been around the library, you may have seen. Okay, I see beautiful faces, so I'm not going to bring that sticky point up. But a lot of exciting content, a lot of exciting ideas, a lot of interesting thoughts that they're putting out there, and you should all catch up with that. But rather than me go on about them, I allow them if they'd like to add anything more to their own profiles, and I'll just let them have the stage for it.
So I think we're just going to keep it really casual. There's no sort of presentation or anything that we
for sure not sitting here. I mean,
yeah. So the idea was just to come and have it.
It's a little fancier than we usually do. I don't know why.
We feel very privileged. Thank you.
I don't know why.
Yeah, we could just turn these around.
Yeah.
I think we sit on the table like that.
That's okay. So the idea was just to come and have a chat with you guys, and so we can tell you a little bit more about ourselves and what we do and what our backgrounds are, where we come from. And if at any point you have any questions, please ask. Like we said, we don't have any presentations or anything of that sort, but we can show you some. We've got a copy of some copies of the magazines that we've been producing, and we can show those to you. What's that?
No, I mean, start talking about who you are first.
So, I'm trained as an architect. I did my architectural studies from the University of Washington in Canada. I came back, I ran back home as soon as I could after I finished. And I actually started my architecture career a little later. I was involved in writing at that point. I was doing a lot of research. I was doing historical research for heritage monuments across the country, working with this company that was doing sound and light shows and audio guides and stuff like that. So I started doing a lot of research, I started doing a lot of writing, a lot of dramatic writing, theatre sort of writing. So if you go to sound and light shows and if you see audio guides at the Amer Fort in Jaipur, the Jantar Mantar in Jaipur, the Qutub Minar in Delhi, those are the kind of things that I was working on. And then I started working, I joined a firm called Matra, which is run by Amit Gupta, doing very interesting work, very cutting edge, sort of contemporary Indian architecture. And I was working with them for close to 4 years. I took a sabbatical. I was teaching at the Shan School of Arts and Architecture while I was doing my own projects. I did a bunch of random art installations for India Art Fair, for all sorts of things. So I kind of dabbled in a lot of different and varied spaces. Writing was never really my career or my profession. It was just something that I enjoyed doing while I was in school. And then there was this opportunity where Amit wanted to start this magazine, and he asked if I would come on board as the editor. And we tried to crack one concept note, and now it's been 4.5 years, and we haven't stopped. So that's been my kind of path till now. We started Stir in 2014. 2014, yeah. So we started Stir in 2014, which was basically meant to be sort of like a large organization that does everything, that does various things to do with design. Concentrating more on design and architecture. So whether it was workshops, conferences, talks, presentations, all sorts of things. But our first initiative was to put together a publication, which was called Mondo Arc India. So the magazine was basically the Indian edition of a UK-based publication called Mondo Arc. And we started the Indian edition. When we first began, the publication was actually concentrated on lighting design. And we were talking about the process of design, but how lighting and light becomes a very integral and critical part of that process. And so the entire publication was concentrating on that aspect of design. Over the course of a year and a half, we actually diversified and we started talking more and more about architecture and design. What was interesting for us was, actually before I get into the magazine, we can talk about your journey, and then we talk organizing in general, and then take stuff from there. So we come
So-
back one day.
I've had a roller coaster life. Two failed attempts to become a doctor. My dad wanted to become a doctor. And I said, I don't want to become a doctor. But I was pushed to do in UP, we used to have CPMT, pre-medical tests, and combined pre-medical tests. Tried once, didn't get selected, thankfully. Tried again, didn't get selected, thankfully. And I said, why are you pushing me? Jumped off a small town from Agra to Delhi to do my management. Did my MBA. Got some kind of a channelization in terms of thinking processes, which is what any institute teaches you. I'm sure that's what you're learning here. Left, joined the bank. There were two jobs which I had from a placement company, and as usual, my dad says bank, so we went to bank. I worked in 14 days in Jindal bank with jacket and tie, and right next to me was somebody from IIM, somebody from FMS, somebody from other institutes, and I arranged numbers through alphabetically, or arranged names and arranged bank accounts and blah, blah, blah. I kept on looking at this job which I didn't take, which was an advertising agency job. Dumped it at 1/5 the salary against my wishes, with my dad doing, joined advertising. So joined a company called McCann, which is a fairly large US-based advertising firm. Gillette, the shaving system, was getting launched in India, but that was my first account. And since then, I've been in advertising since 91 till 97. From McCann, moved to JWP. In between, I was doing two. There was always a urge to do something on your own. Almost started a film production company in 93. Between my jump from McCann to JWP, where we were making corporate films. So we made 3 movies while we were working in daytime in our respective offices on the sly and on the side. We made 3 corporate movies for Gillette, for Salam Balak first, and there was a jeans company called Intershop, FUs, which used to be in South End. You may know. You guys may not know. But then,
That's like way before you guys were born.
exactly. I mean, FUs was a big brand at that point of time. It was FUS, which also stood for Fuck You Straws.
Yeah.
Which was against
actually
Levi's.
this thing to Levi's stores.
Yeah. So we made a corporate film for them. Then a friend of mine who was partner with me, he got to do PhD, opportunity to do masters in McGill University in Montreal. He said, I'm going to study. So we banked there, I came back to the job. 97, when I was almost getting promoted to a group manager, I said, if I don't leave now, I will never leave a secured work environment. And that's when I jumped out of it and started Vis-a-Vis. Vis-a-Vis was initially a design management company where I used to do a lot of design shows and architecture shows and curate design and architecture shows. We were the first architecture gallery in the country. So we did shows like architecture in the age of McDonald's. We took a swipe on Indian architecture with funny drawings. We did a show called Art City 3 where we briefed architects to design chairs. We did a show called The Unbuilt India. We presented those architectural drawings and models which never got built. So various initiatives like these, a platform for dialogues, discourses. Much ahead of its time, in 97, there was no Facebook, there was no LinkedIn, there was no social community, social networking as a word didn't exist in people's life. So did a lot of initiatives like that. In 2000, again got carried away to start a .com business, bring global creative community under one banner. Launched it with full fanfare in Mumbai. Looked for funding, didn't get funding, went completely bust. Almost went back to JWP and says, okay, we have to survive. Stuck my neck out for some more time, got selected by British Council to be part of an Edinburgh Festival Management Workshop, bounced back, did a few more events, and I remember in 99 we did an event called Wrap the World, which was a millennium event, where one piece of art was wrapped in globe in 1.5 hours. So things curated some offbeat shows in the world of art, architecture, and design. 2003, after going completely bust, went back to what we were doing, stumbled into the business of lighting. Lighting is something which is an integral part of architecture and interiors and any space and also human environment. We realized that there is not many people selling light as conceptual design technique or design tool. So we became lighting people. We started a lighting company, we started a conceptual lighting company where we started training architects and designers about lighting design, and we started taking projects from design and started building those projects from lighting design perspective. Continued that on our journey for long, became fairly powerful lighting company, and vis-a-vis became synonymous to light. People forgot old vis-a-vis past. Again, the restless us started nagging us at this. We still want to do what we were doing earlier. So therefore, STIR was launched in 2014. So STIR stands for See, Think, Inspire, Reflect. It also stands for stirring of ideas, stirring of thought processes. And STIR happened in 2014. Mondo, as Milani was talking about, happened in 2015. And we're still stirring up our lives and thinking, and we a bunch of restless people. We have never settled down, and I don't think we ever will. And so that's where we are.
So just a little bit about the magazine. The magazine, like I said, started off in we started working on it in December 2014, March 2015 we had launched it. And after we launched, we realized, and we were told that this is the first magazine ever launched in the country with just a 3-month run-up period. We had no idea. We said, okay, March sounds like a good time to launch it, so we launched it. Since then, we had been bringing out an issue every 2 months. And initially, while it was all about architectural lighting and the idea of the imperative role that lighting plays in the environment that we are building and creating, it kind of diversified to talking about architecture and design in a more wholesome manner. We then, so that was 2015, so we've done a series of thematic issues where we were basically talking about projects and architects and design work that was happening across the world, not only in India. We did various thematic issues, whether it was hospitality as a theme, where we were talking about projects and the hospitality world and design in hospitality, to natural light, where an entire issue was about natural light, to another issue, an interesting one, which was called Around the Bend. Not where? No. So this was actually when Zaha Hadid had passed away, and this was in tribute to her. So we did an entire issue which talked about this kind of architecture, which was very parametric, which was very sort of cutting edge, very digital, had a tribute to Zaha in it. We had published works, her personal artworks from her archives that had never been published before. So we managed to do a lot of different things. We managed to push ourselves, push our boundaries. What became interesting is that when we met people, for them we were not a magazine, but we also knew that we were not a book. So we had come to fall under this little category called a bookazine, which is in between a book and a magazine, where we are very, very content driven. It's serious content, so it's something that you want to actually read but not flip through. At the same time, it's not a book in its sort of sense of like a hardbound, put in your library sort of thing. But more and more people started to collect this particular book or this collection of magazines. And for us, that became very important, that became a driving force. So every issue that came out after that became a new benchmark for us, right? And we started exploring various things. We did one entire issue which was only about drawings and sketches. So it had no completed projects, but we talked about the process of designing. For us, that became important. For us, it wasn't about talking about a project and then giving a shopping catalog at the end of it which says, okay, you can buy this carpet from here and this table from here. But it was about the serious idea of the design process. And how do you start designing a building or an object or a product? So we did the whole sketch issue. We have a copy of that as well, where we talked about how the drawing and the sketch becomes an important tool to design. Where we had people like B.B. Doshi, who's now won the Pritzker. We had Charles Correa sketches. We had we had Arun Rival, Charles Correa, B.B. Doshi, David Chipperfield, MVRDV, people from across the world, and just
Maki from
their
Tokyo.
Maki and Oculus, and just their drawings and their sketches and showing design through drawings and sketches. So these are some of my sort of like benchmark issues.
Yeah, so we got some of the issues. We'll leave it for you guys to browse through.
In the process, what we've also done is that while we've been running the magazine, that's one thing that's been happening, but that's only one of various things that STIR does. We've been organizing a lot of talks, presentations, workshops. We had Jürgen Meyer, who is a German architect who had come to Delhi to present his work. We did an entire exhibition of his work. We had Kareem Rashid, who was here and met with a large audience and had an interactive evening with them. Humberto Campana of the Campana brothers from Rio de Janeiro, they were here to present their works. Piero Lissoni, he was one of my favorites, who is actually an architect, turned graphic designer, turned product designer, turned also, like he designs yachts, right? So his company does anything and everything under the umbrella of design. He was here and he did a large presentation of his work. He showed us some of his projects. We had a day-long sort of sit-down discussion with him talking about what design means and luxury in design, because that's the field that he works in. Recently, in fact, in the last 2 months, we've had 3 events. One was materiology, in which we actually invited 9 different designers to collaborate with 9 different material suppliers. So basically 9 designers were working with 9 distinct materials to create 9 distinct unique installations. So we had Manish Gulati of Mofa Studios, who was working with ceramic tile and a mirror, and he created an installation. We had Stapati from Calicut, Tony Joseph, who worked with plastic bottles, used plastic bottles to create an installation. We had Madhav Raman of Anagram, who was working with technology and the idea of how the future is something that we can't touch or has no sort of tangibility. So we had 9 different people like that. The other event that we recently did was the launch of Tukral and Tagra's artwork called Elements, which kind of teaches on the cusp of architecture, design and art. And the third one that we recently did was the World Architecture Festival exhibition, which actually showcased the works of 19 Indian designers, architects who had been shortlisted at last year's World Architecture Festival, and of which 2 of them were winners. So we had an entire exhibition of their works and their projects, and a panel discussion with Sanjay Puri and Sonali Rastogi talking about the future and the identity of architecture. So under STIR, we're doing various other things, and our next step is now going digital. Want to add anything to that?
No, I think you've got one person sitting in front of you who's an architect by education and training and an editor and a curator now. You've got one person who is a failed doctor and a management graduate now turned into heading an editorial and a curatorial team. So, and running a 4 organization as a business entity, all 4 of them are into creative community. So you shoot, what would you like to know and what would you like to hear from us?
That was a question. So, like I was saying earlier, so what do you guys think is, so one of the things we've been telling all the students here is think outside the proverbial box, right? Think outside the proverbial box, and the way we've structured our curriculum is that if many of them want, they can actually take a minor in journalism. So we have that kind of, so the way our curriculum is structured is 25% of our coursework is left free to the students to do anywhere that they want. So they might do a major in architecture but do a minor in public policy. They might do a major in architecture but do a minor in history, or a minor in journalism and communication, right? So given that this is a kind of a new space, right? I don't know, could you talk a little bit about how is this space turning out? How do you see it turning out for 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line? What do you see as the prospects for people? Because I'm sure many of these kids would be people who might say, they might get interested in something like that, right? So could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I think what has happened is, if you look at the tradition of design journalism in India, we've had very few publications or serious publications that actually stem from the country. Even when we were studying or when we were, early on in our career, we used to always refer to magazines mostly from the US and the UK. So you had your AJs and your ARs and your detail magazines and things like that. Very little that actually came from the country, which is very unfortunate. What we have been trying to do is to bring, through our magazine, to bring global content to India, but also to take Indian content globally, right? And that becomes an interesting sort of a dialogue and a conversation between what's happening outside, what's happening over here, and how we fare in this whole sort of dynamics. What's also interesting to note is that largely what has been happening in India is that you've had journalists writing about design, and designers who are actually practicing the design, but there's very little interaction or sort of cross-pollination between the two fields. This is something that vis-a-vis has always practiced, and Amit, you can talk about it, but as STAR, what we have had in the past is that everybody who writes for the magazine, it comes from a design background, either by training or by experience. We've got architects who are part of our team. I'm an architect. Amit is virtually a designer by virtue of his experience. So that gives you an understanding of what is happening. And I think that is very much the need of the hour. We were talking about this on the way here, is that you've got designers today who don't necessarily, or who don't have the time or don't have that kind of bandwidth to really express themselves in words. And then you have journalists who don't necessarily understand design to do justice in expressing that through words. And that's a big gap that we feel. True, and I think that goes for design anywhere, right? And for that matter, for all fields. And it's important for us to bridge that. And it's not to say that only designers should be talking about or should be writing, or only journalists should be writing, or any of that matter. But I think there's this big sort of gap that needs to be filled over here today.
Just to add to what you were saying and further elaborate the question, the scope of design architecture in our journalism in the country or globally. When you look at journalism today, when you pick up a newspaper today or when you pick up a magazine today, what is the first subject which is thrown on your face? Exactly. So there is politics. Next.
Sports.
Sports.
Celebrity.
Page 3. Lifestyle. Yeah. Crime.
Violence.
Yeah.
Crime and violence.
Then. So say corporate. Yeah, business. Yeah. I'm clubbing advertising everything into business, corporate news. Yeah. What else?
Matrimonials and wanted ads.
What are you looking at?
So
I'm not looking at them, I'm just saying that they're there.
But there we have to say there are distinct differences between the countries. Let's say France, Germany, Austria has a very long tradition of feuilleton. The word comes from France, with the culture section, which is totally underdeveloped in England.
correct. So I was waiting for somebody to say
And here
films.
I only find gossip. Shah Rukh Khan goes to a party, and I just don't want to hear about it. But architecture or the basic competitions also are not discussed. I mean, hardly ever. I mean, I have to.
These guys
So-
are having a moment in which he doesn't like Shah Rukh Khan, that's not fair.
I like it, but I don't want to read about
No,
it.
I'm just saying.
What's interesting is that you don't read about the work that he's doing,
No,
right?
you're right,
Exactly.
you're right.
You read
I'm sorry,
about what
I don't mean to be
Yeah.
flippant here, I'm just saying that I agree with you
So
completely.
we definitely recognize artists in theatre, not even theatre, cinema,
It's
I would
very
say.
interesting, but
But not
just to
for
add
their
to what-
art.
I mean,
Yeah, not film directors,
Even
but just
in the-
celebrity.
Yeah.
in the US, let's see a kind of a show like Charlie Rose, right? Now Charlie Rose brings in some of the world's most famous Hollywood actors and sort of flips them from their work to talk about very serious issues. Charlie Rose does that. We don't have any. So the equivalent of that is Coffee with Karan, which is trash. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
completely. Because again, there you're still page 3. You're
Yeah,
still
you're
in
still
that
page three.
space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So films and entertainment is the next big thing which we look at. All of us look at films and entertainment.
And one of the interesting thing is that some business-oriented newspapers such as the Wall Street Journal, the Financial Times, have the best house and garden sections, I find.
Exactly.
The best
The garden,
art
yeah.
section. Much better than the other.
So what the point which I was trying to make is that we have this globally. US is 300 million people. The contribution in US economy from arts, culture and design is 5.5% of the GDP, which is huge. Then comes Europe, where the whole of, if you look at UK and then Europe, if you pick up the Germany as well as London,
Well, Austria, such a tiny country,
Has
the
only
art is
music.
subsidized, where culture, is announced in the news, the everyday news. I've never seen this in any other country.
correct. Globally, arts, culture and design is now on a rise as a subject of importance in people's life. It is changing human behavior, it is changing mindsets, it's changing your own. I mean, we don't have in India museums where we can take our kids to,
I know children's events,
you know, but when you don't have nothing, the only way you can go is up, you can't go down. And today with the way this country is growing, no, irrespective of BJP or Congress, nobody can stop this growth. We are all hungry people to grow. There is no way that we will not have museums coming in. There is no way arts, culture and design will not become an important part of our life in next coming 2 decades. And there is this particular, which we are imbibing from West, where America is big on arts culture. Every newspaper globally and every magazine globally, even if they're covering politics or films or business, there's a dedicated section to arts, culture and design. The amount of festivals which are happening globally in arts, culture and design, and all festivals started happening now in India. So the scope of journalism in this sector is only going to grow to many folds in what it is today.
But there's one danger in this, which is consumerism. I mean, it's great to buy things, but let's say, I'm giving Austria as an example, which has a specific kind of Austrian Marxism, which is very unique, different from other kind of Marxism, where the idea is to abandon elite culture or high culture, to everyone. It's highly subsidized, to but now we have, new magazines such as Architecture Digest and so on in India, and this is very much geared towards consumption. I think a lot of it still try to convert and keep this in design, which I find interesting, but there is also from the students that I'm teaching design before I came here. This brand name and so on very much influenced by this. So there's that danger.
I'd like to add to that. It's not that there isn't anything happening in the country. There's a lot that's happening. If you, since Amit mentioned museums and you mentioned that as well, there are museums over here as well, and if you go to them, they're highly subsidized. The problem is we don't talk about it. The problem is that we're not aware of it, and we're not interested.
There's two issues here. One,
So there's a lack of interest, is what I feel, and at various levels.
I would object to that. See, one, first if you're looking at revenue, right? A lot of art activity in India is not revenue generating. It is not tracked. So if you figure out a percentage of GDP, you can't do that. Two, when you say museum spaces are not used, because museum spaces are set up wrong. Most museums in India have a very colonial structure of separating what they're talking about from the audience. May work in certain places, doesn't work in India. If you go to museums which are friendly, they're packed. Go to the zoo anytime, they're packed. Right? There's also a distinct class and caste thing which never gets addressed when we are talking of so-called high culture and music. I mean, people going to opera in India, 5 people maybe. And if you start tracking that and say no arts in India, I mean that is pardon me, but that's a moronic way to look at it. Right? look at what's happening in the local art scenes in villages. We may not classify it as art from a certain class perspective, but it's certainly art. Look at local village festivals.
Look at
Then people.
now. Just to tell you about percentage of everything is business. Every form of your living, your creative community, your creative, if you want to generate creative ideas, create arts, culture, design, everything has to lead to an economy, and it has to lead to economies of scale. Your Kumbh Mela today is a classic example where crores of revenues get flowed into, where every jalebi wala is making loads of money out there selling jalebi, and every guy who's selling the kalawa is making money out of it. So that's an economy. Festivals and arts and culture globally has contributed to the economy. A small event which happens in Jaipur, the Jaipur Literature Festival, contribute to Jaipur economy. Jawahar Kala Camp coming up in Jaipur will contribute to Jaipur economy. Kochi Binare contributes to Kochi economy.
I understand that. The point being, the formal economy, none of that gets counted. Yes, a Kumbh Mela, if you look at the number of religious festivals in villages, I make no distinction between what happens in a religious festival and an art festival.
Yeah, so ultimately it's culture. But yes, if all these initiatives are talked about and are written about and can spread to a larger audience, not just in India but globally, which is 7.2 billion people, it will all contribute to growing interest. It will also go. Today, yes, when you look at some magazines you mentioned which are very consumer driven, they have their own space. What Nanami was talking about is how our publication is very content driven. So when you're going to talk about journalism, and that's the reason when she was saying that architects and designers trying to write about a practice or a case study or a museum or an urban city or a development, you will write from a perspective. You've been trained to think. You've been channelized to think in a certain direction. You'll be able to evaluate and value what is being done. And therefore you'll be able to put perspective and opinion much better than a journalist talking about a chair which can be bought and taken home and put in a yellow room. So that is yes. But consumerism, somehow content and consumerism will exist together. The benefits and the pros and cons of consumerism, yes. That's a different debate which can go in a different direction. But yes, content is important, but therefore, to take Jyoti's question, if you guys come into writing, evaluating, talking about opinion, being part of discussions and point of views, you'll be far better than a normal journalist who has experience in writing politics and got into writing about architecture.
I think the difference lies in understanding the field and the perspective that you bring in terms of how you look at it and what you understand of it. And that is the basic sort of line where we draw it. If you're talking about where does design journalism or where we see it in the next 10 years, I think it's a massive scope because there isn't enough of it happening over here. But interestingly, there is more and more interest being generated in the country. Today, if you guys have to name one online platform that you refer to, a global platform for design and architecture, what would it be?
What do you look at? You didn't slept last night.
Sorry?
Love.
Yeah, like when I first started researching on that's what I do.
So Architectural Digest in the print format.
Yeah.
And if you have to see something online,
That is online also. So what goes, when you start looking at architecture, tourism and everything, those are the online.
What else?
anything else?
Pinterest posts.
Pinterest posts. That's where consumerism comes. Next.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, but that's why you get small consumption or speedy consumption. Pinterest, Instagram. It's
So if you have to do a research project and you have to say, okay, write a paper on the Louvre that was designed in Abu Dhabi recently, what's the first
We
place
are
you
keeping
go?
them away from the main line of things like that.
No, we're not.
We are right now, yes. We are saying
We are using digital
we are
sources,
using,
pretty
but
podcast as
I'm saying is, but the way is, the idea is to also think of it that your library is your first resource.
So we're using Getty, we're using the Metropolitan.
So that's what I want to know. So if you do go digital, what do you refer to?
Things like
Or do you just Google and you say, okay, let's see where Google takes us?
So we are doing what is called already peer-reviewed digital sources. And if you're talking about a paper, then it's that, right? So because the academic paper has very strict standards that we are trying to follow. So when you say digital archives, okay, if you want to include things, so JSTOR is fundamentally an academic archive. It's not a populist archive. Neither is Grovard or Getty to a certain extent is. It has access to everybody. No, but I'm saying they have access to others, but we are essentially making sure, my point is this, that we're trying to discourage them from looking at non-peer reviewed sources. Peer review is important if you're writing an academic paper, right? So the idea is not to, so you can maybe get a base information from somewhere, but you've got to ultimately come back to a peer review.
So the point that I was getting at actually through this is that if wherever all these resources that you're looking at, whether it's a Getty or a JSTOR, or even if you look at ArcDailies and Dizines and Design and all of that, you will notice that you have more and more Indian content, and today you have more and more sort of these blocks that they have stationed from India. So you have, like, for example, an ArcDaily has an India desk, right, where they literally have people sitting over here feeding them content every day. This is a very recent development, but there is a recognition of resources from within the country that is wanting to go global. And that's what we're trying to establish, is that there is more and more, there's a rising need in design journalism, in architectural journalism, in art journalism.
And scholarship.
And scholarship,
Most of the
completely.
greatest books of India were written by foreigners.
Yes.
When I look at Indian books, I see the bibliography, the footnotes, and so on. So
Okay,
often.
which books are you talking about?
In general, I just pick up a book on, I don't know, palaces in
Yeah, because they are mostly coffee table books and hagiographies. No, yes, they are.
Or Mughal architecture.
Those are hagiographies and or coffee tables. But let's pick up a book like, this is what I'm saying. You have to be careful about what we are talking here. Because you have to see that, let's look at it this way. India, as far as architecture and art publication has essentially been coffee tables.
Yeah.
Right? And then there are very high theoretical academic ones. Okay? And they are there out there too. So you can look, and if you look at, I can name quite a few people who are, and all of this has happened simply after the post-colonial shift in education. Right? Sorry.
And I would actually raise the question with, are they having a desk here? Is that really a move towards understanding of global and boundaryless and all of that? Or is it really design mining because you have these big, major countries
You do.
that you're mining out?
But that's what I'm saying. So India, till date, has not been a very deep pocket for these international platforms to even cover. Today it is. So today, a house, for example, which started off in some corner of the world, has become one of the largest corporate setups for so-called architectural journalism, has started its own India edition. Right? After it's it's taken over the world and it's started its India edition. But the fact that they recognize India as a resource pool, where they want, not only do they want information, see, information, this is not like your BPOs, right, where you had people working over here but taking information out. People are using information that is generated in the country now. And I think that is an important thing to recognize, is that Indian architecture is being put on the map. And who better else to talk about it than Indian architects or the Indian design community?
I must say but, because we don't want to have a police where we want to shout, is this a woman? Is this a man? Is this a human rights? I think anybody, someone can be Indian and write about the music of human rights. It doesn't have to be German, it doesn't have to be Protestant, it can be anything. So why I think in every country there must be research and interest in its own tradition. Yes, I also believe that in the wider world, and having a more positive view of the world, that there can be collaboration in there, that we look at the world with a window, not as a window. So,
I completely agree.
so I don't believe that someone is Jewish is better at understanding institution.
No, I'm not saying it's not better in a good or bad sense, but better in the sense of understanding. If you have studied here, if you have a certain understanding of your sort of cultural design, you have the sort of bandwidth to talk about it.
Yes, but
Right? So I'm not saying it's limited to that.
yeah.
At no point am I saying it's limited to that.
Sometimes when you are an outsider,
You bring a different perspective.
That is
Completely,
also,
of course.
I-
Sorry, just to conclude, I as a writer and as an architect, I write about projects from across the world. It doesn't.
It doesn't have to be.
No, absolutely.
So we write as designers. All I'm trying to say is that the opportunities in the country are now being presented that were not there earlier. So to address what Joydeep was saying is that do we see this as something that can interest students in the future? Architects, it's said that most architects graduate with a degree but don't practice architecture. What are the options that they have, right? Design journalism, I think, today has become one very viable option for them to
It's
explore.
actually offered as a course in the US, but it's not listed.
Any questions, folks? Do you have any questions for me and very conscious effort to see there? Kind of thing. Sorry, I'm just doing that. Okay. Any other questions, folks? Anything that you guys want to think of? Maybe some of you may want to do this kind of work ever in your life. If you do,
Yeah.
you will be, so you might want to ask them. Is
I
there
remember
possibilities?
you introduced
I-
during our interview.
So I am asking you this. You want to ask them what are the possibilities of doing work like this? You might want to ask questions like
In
that.
terms of what they've been talking about, the
Or
kind
even
of
what
content
you-
that they're looking to explore, and many of those things directly affect the kind of things that you're doing, right? Or have been doing over the last 6-7 months. Questions of drawing, questions of representation, questions of different kind of design genres. Right? Do you have questions about that?
Or if your mind transfixed on holy right? I'm going to go holy on your ass. This is if I have to. And I'm very HOLY is what I meant. I got it. So go ahead, ask questions.
Like, how did you jump from architecture to journalism, or like from one field to completely different field, like happened? Like, was there like a course you took to change? Is there like a lot of like business like do that state there?
I
Like,
told you
even like
I
from-
jumped.
not like what happened, like how did life and design?
So, if I understood your question, how do we jump from one place to the other? I was actually trying to figure the question out. I'm actually trying to say a statement, trying to figure out if somebody will ask. Is there business in creativity? Every architect, every designer, every product designer has to have business and economies and survival linked to it, right? So when you're creative, 99.9% of the time, very rarely you follow a straight path. You will always have one big R in your life which is called rebel. And I don't know if Joydeep would like me after this.
No, I'm okay.
I would, if you're not rebellious as a creative person, there's something not right. So you have to rebel with yourself, with what is happening around you, how Joydeep is teaching you. Question. The more you question, the more you're going to
That's
love.
what they do. That's
Yeah.
what they did. Doubt everything, including what I just told
I
you.
don't know what I
So just when I heard that you're not giving enough time to browse through websites, I would say just browse. But just tell me. I mean,
No, they do. It's just that when I say that.
Kind of.
It's just
Yeah.
a chapter.
so that rebellion in you also makes you not very content most of the time. And that not being content most of the time makes you jump. Sometimes you follow a career path that you want to be Norman Foster, and you want to have 3,000 projects in your belt, and you want to win Pritzker at the age of 72. And you follow a path like that. Sometimes you say, hey, that's not my end goal. My end goal is to burn out and do this thing at the same time, have fun that I'm doing, at the same time also make money. So you find opportunities, and the more you rebel, the more opportunities you find. The more, I mean, that is one thing which, therefore, we are a trained architect. All we know that she is a good writer. Today she is a known editor in the country. An advertising professional, I don't know how to draw, but I can, in front of you, draw like this and create sections and elevation with my body gesture, and hopefully you will translate it over it. So, yeah, the rebel in us makes us jump. To take this forward, the next R which I will push is keep reading and researching. Because until you read and research, you don't know. We sometimes try, we have a real session. I propose this called a real session. We drop everything and read. 1 hour in a week, or 2 hours in a week, or every Saturday, or every day. Drop everything and read. Yeah. If you
Someone told me that his father told him he shouldn't read because he wouldn't be a good businessman. And I object. It's not really know that the games, all of them you read, our day.
Yeah. Because only when you read and research and you know what is happening in all the way in Greenland or what is happening in New Zealand, you see opportunity. Either you will find opportunity or opportunity will find you. And then if you are rebellion, you are for sure are going to find opportunity.
It's more into always finding your own kind of source. You know, it's better to just use the wise and hear others from other perspectives. It's very important as a human being to confront yourself with other opinions.
What is the third R? What could be the third R? Sorry? You become a coach. You reflect. So, okay. Yeah. Anything else? Relook could be part of rebel and read and understand and evaluate and research. That is something which every designer, architect, and creative person needs to do. Is to reach out. Whatever you do, you have to reach out. You may or may not have time, but reach out. The more you reach out, the more you network.
We use the word network.
The more you reach out, more you network. When more you network, more you meet people, more opportunity comes your way, more rebellious you can become. That this is how I can question this same line drawn by Paul III in a different manner. So, and a concoction of this reflection is a bit of reading and researching, but you have to reach out, you have to create your own brand.
And sometimes it's not only rebellion but confidence, which is a good learning experience. It's good for you. Because if you work with someone who doesn't share your opinion before and who wants something different, then you can find something that you might have been afraid of. Because otherwise you're just looking at a donor who is tyrant and as a designer that's awesome.
Absolutely. I just want to add to what Amit is saying is that if there's one thing that I would ever tell anybody is that opportunities will present them to you at every given step of the way. It totally depends on what you want to make of it. Right? Amit called me one day and said, I was on a sabbatical, I was doing my own stuff, I was teaching, I was doing projects, I was doing art, I had finally gotten back to painting, which I hadn't done for 20 years. And he called me and he said, do you want to start a magazine? That's exactly what my transition was. Right? And it was a matter of me saying yes or no. But the point is that it's intimidating, it's scary, you don't know what it's going to lead to, but you also have to take your chances. And you have to be open about it. You have to be open to these opportunities. I have no idea where this is going, especially it's not like a Condé Nast calling and saying, oh, we have this international network of magazines and we are guaranteeing a future for you. But it's about weighing your options and seeing what you want to do then. And I think what's also important is to have some fun. I think all of us just take ourselves way too seriously. And everybody wants that. I've been like that. you can ask her. She's probably the one person who's known me the longest in this room. I'll be the sort who needs a 5-year plan, right? And I will follow that
Which
because
I messed
that's
up
my
completely.
goal. Yeah, totally. So this was a disruption in my life. But it's okay. It's okay to do that. It's okay to feel scared and intimidated and not know where you're going ahead. Because you'll make something out of it. If you're having fun with it, and I think that's why I say, if you have fun with it, if you really enjoy it, you will ensure that yourself, that you will make the most of it. So I think that is definitely key in the process. So there's a big F after all the R's.
Fun.
Yeah. Let's keep it to 3 letters this time. Just to clarify.
I would say that the 3 R's are still missing something. So just by reading something doesn't mean you can't achieve everything. Like, I would still say that there's something called observe, which is related to practical knowledge and practical exposure, which is much more important than reading.
When I say reach, when you say read, research, when you research, you can actually go and travel.
Can we just say that?
But reach out will also mean recognition.
Reach out is for your own self.
Reach out, you want to reach out to people, reach out to opportunities, reach out to what is there around you.
You meet,
You have to be conscious of what is
pack your
happening.
bag tomorrow instead of doing a, pack your bag tomorrow instead of going to a holy and
Not reach out to be actors, but to country.
yeah.
To make
Pack your bag and run to see what what is happening in Hong Kong and Art Basel next week.
See,
Fine.
reaching out could
That
be
is
both
reaching out also.
things.
That is networking as well.
You could be sitting over here and you could reach out and say that, oh, Amit, can you hire me? I want a job. Right? That could be reaching out as well. Or you can come and say, you know what? I'm interested in what you're doing. I want to learn from you. That could also be reaching out. Reaching out could also be that at the end of the session you're inspired to do something, which I'm hoping that you guys will be, and you decide to take a step towards that. Reaching out could mean just the decision that you attended this session today. Right? So it really depends on how you interpret things in your own way. But yes, observing is very important. You have to be mindful of what is happening around you. Who are there? Like, what do you surround yourself with at any given point? That is important.
I honestly thought Shorey would
Here.
represent
Which was
Oh,
So,
yeah. Oh.
so after reaching out, shouldn't be there an outside third? Like we ask question, we read, we reach out. There should be an outcome to it.
For sure. The outcome is something with you. Which means, all this
cost benefit analysis.
All this is something which is a process of your being. What you want to create, after you accumulated all this, after you've networked, you have to transfer that into either a product or your career or your book or your building or how you want to live your life.
But I don't necessarily agree with the term outcome, because an outcome is very final, right? At what point did you know you wanted to do architecture?
Still still
Basically 11th and 12th.
11th and 12th. So you did science in school, and your outcome was that you're in architecture school, right? But you've reached that outcome, but it doesn't stop there, right? Now you're studying to be an architect. Once you graduate, that becomes your outcome for that part of the process, that you have got a degree and now you are a legalized architect with a license. But it doesn't stop there either, right? So the outcome, for me, is too much of a finality, right? I feel like we're just always a part of the process. So yes, I knew in grade 9 that I wanted to be an architect. I went through school, I went through architecture school, I got my degree, I came, I practiced. But it doesn't stop. At what point do you say that, okay, you've reached the end of the race and now this is the outcome? That's for you to ask yourself. Like, where do you want to end that for yourself?
Yeah, actually, you could never reach to an outcome which you're happy with or you want. I just read a quote out, which which is about Martin Luther King Jr. Everything that we see is a shadow cast by that which we do not see. So you never know what you see as an outcome on what could be different than what you actually don't see. And then keep on searching for what you don't see.
And I feel like the minute you feel that you've reached an outcome, it's time for you to do something different. It's time for you to reach out laterally. You know, if you feel that, okay, this was my path and this is where I've reached, but
It's like you're
it's
never
even boring, right?
Yeah.
Like once you come to a point where you feel like you've achieved everything that you ever wanted. Either then, you know, I guess you hit nirvana and you go up into the hills and you mountains and do whatever, or you do something that excites you again.
How many of you are Jim Morrison fan? But Jim Morrison is, in my mind, is every generation.
I'm sorry I cut you off before, but like this effect to like writing, like as a journalist, how did that switch happen? Like what was the process where you go through? Is it just like I'm just gonna write something and send it to someone, or like from practicing architect to writing and then eventually
You could do both, right?
Okay, so for me, the written word has just been my chosen form of expression since I was a child, like even when I was in school. So I used to enjoy writing. Like, I used to be the sort of person, if I get really happy, I write. If I get really angry, I write. I could go and scream at people. So I would just kind of like take a pen and write it all out and then focus. So I have stacks and stacks of those things lying down. But it wasn't a very sort of like a conscious switch from one thing to another for me. Like I said, while I was still in university, I got a job to do research for these historic heritage monuments. And in the course of my research, I also started writing about them. I wrote a lot of papers in university. I was fortunate enough to be in a program which actually forced me to write a lot of very serious papers and read and do all of that. So I think I just kind of honed my skills in that process. But while I started doing, I've always been very analytical, so I like to kind of, look at things and the whys and the hows and the where-offs and all of that. And so my turning into I don't call myself a design journalist. I'm very proud of the fact that I've gone through architecture. I have given my blood, sweat, and a lot of tears, and got that degree. So I'm going to hold it above my head for the rest of my life. But just writing happened in this process, where I got invited. Like these guys used to have a newsletter. They invited me to write a couple of pieces, so I started writing about it there. I used to be in my firm when I was working with Matra. I used to be the one who used to write all the competition entries, and so it was just something that, because I enjoyed it, I used to just do a lot more of it, and that is, I think, that is what gave me the confidence to do more and more of it. So again, it was an opportunity. So every time we had to send in a short write-up, while I was in Matra, if there were other publications who would ask about our projects, I would be the first one to raise my hand and say, okay, I'll write about it. Right? Because I enjoy writing about it. So it's just moments like these that kind of, I guess, accumulate and form an interest at the end of the day. I don't know if that answered your question.
Since we're discussing magazines, when I was in my grade 12, I had the idea of making a magazine. It was generally about I was with my friend. It was her idea. And I was in part as a design, as the one who does that digital aspect of it. I was in it. So we reached out to all the several photographers. I mean, generally restricting it to below 21 because we wanted it to be kind of a magazine that my generation could relate to. People who are not working or students who do something creative and need a platform to represent themselves. We had this idea of creating a magazine that would highlight them. And I had everything sorted, but then there's that moment where we really do it because again, exams and everything. So we just stopped. And still we have all the materials that we could just could just sit down and edit everything and just publish it, but then just that moment where you do it, that never happened. So it was just something I had to share.
What is good now?
You just have to break out of your inertia. You see what outcomes. Break out of your inertia.
Okay, well, people want like a lot of what ifs, like what if it doesn't work?
That's never going to change.
Yeah.
Turn what if to as if.
So what is scaring you from the plunge?
But just to address you, trust me, we've published 20 issues, physical copies of the magazine, besides a lot of other things. And at the end of the process, it would usually be anywhere between 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. On an average, I'm saying, where we would have to press that final button and send the file to print. And after 20 issues, I'd be sitting over there with my entire team, and we'd still look at each other saying, "Are and they will. So things like that don't change. It's like you said, you just have to kind of take the time. We're lucky that we're in a day and age where we can reverse a lot of things that we do, where we still have the option of the Control Z. And I'm going to take the liberty of pointing here and say he probably wasn't, because he keeps talking about his, when in the advertising days they'd have to take their the copy and the letters and one typo and then you can't do anything about it. Right? It was on a scooter. So,
But yeah, just to add to that, I just took them another hour. Just make sure that you don't regret anything down the line. I can sense that it couldn't go to maximum. You're regretting it.
So still, whenever I get the chance, like whatever we are doing with our projects here, I try to make those small magazine out every time. So there have been instances where I do that.
बहुत लगता है ये कर देना चाहिए किया. It's like I wish I had told her that. She's now with somebody else. Do it. Don't regret it. Sorry?
Interesting, it's not.
Many more personal stories are about this. These short stories, showing what the pattern change which we want to do, real outcomes.
Or if it's happened, don't regret it anymore. That's the other way to also
Yeah,
look at it.
I don't think there's anybody in this room who hasn't had a what if moment repeatedly for one. And there's not a major change in say, okay, let's try it out.
My biggest
I'm an anthropologist, right?
What if I did not become an architect? So that I tried to do something about it. And I did that for 5 years and did everything else after that.
Actually, even we talk about it, what if we had not been here, like how would have been thinking about
but
it?
you'll never know that. You'll never have an answer.
Whatever, Yoda.
Yeah.
Be Yoda. What did Yoda say? There is only do, not, or do. There is no try. Either it happens or it doesn't.
Like I asked
There's no other way
myself,
to
if
think
I
about it.
hadn't jumped onto this board of getting into publication and all, there could have been multiple things that would have happened. I would have been still sitting as one like architect in some form.
What is that term for that?
Architect. So I could have been architect, or I could have become like, I don't know, a big fat associate driving fancy cars, flying all over the world, still designing buildings and hotels and whatnot, right? But you'll never have that answer. So who knows?
That's what. The point is, it's always either do or do not. In the words of Yoda, as I
And
said.
as far as you're doing, you might as well enjoy it.
Yeah.
Folks, so there's lunch for everybody upstairs. We can continue the discussion. Right?
It's just from the circulation, curious.
We would print 7,500 copies, and the circulation was limited to Pan India, in the Indian subcontinent actually. But we also have an online edition, which was being read by close to 60,000 per edition. 60. I mean, those are numbers that we get from the software online. No one can know.
Right, we had 60,000 impressions on that.
So we can continue the discussion upstairs, but before you all leave, I'd like to thank you so much, Narani and Amit, for being here. These are small mementos on our behalf. There's a JGU mug and a JGU pen.
Thank you so much.
There you go. Thank you so much. just wonderful, generally wonderful people to know as such. You see what I'm saying? Just great people overall to know, to go and sort of bounce some ideas off in general, right? And one of the things that they said, which I found very, very interesting and something that, you see, all of you keep thinking about formal ways of doing things, right? This idea that they said that, it's not about going and saying, can I get a job with you, or can I say, this idea, you're doing something that I find interesting. How can I help you come and talk? This is about the best way to go and approach anything in life. It really is. 9 out of 10, and I'm going to ensure this, that your first 3 internships are absolutely not paid. You guys are gophers, is what I want you to know.
Just to add, the best way of networking is to tell the other person what I can do for you rather than what I can get out of.
Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country, right? You're not getting it. That still applies, right? It's actually the best way to do it. What can I do for you? Right? And instantly you'll find somebody will say, Frika will come, I'll show you 10 things that you can do for me. And that's the best way for you to learn, right? So I think that's something, we've been trying to tell you from day one, right? That's really how you're going to get your first apprenticeships, your internships and things like that, right? Whenever you guys tell me something that, like the other day Aryan came and talked to me a bit about, I'm interested in this question of figuring out energy consumption on highways or something like that. I said, okay, I'm going to put you to Girish. Girish said, I'll put you to Geeta at Trip, right? So if he goes there expecting they'll pay him, no. Hey, you're going to get to work with some of the foremost leading people who are working on solar energy and all of that on highways. Just learn. 2 months, 3 months, whatever it is. Don't think about anything. If they tell you ki yaar usme chayla de, no problem.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Completely.
Believe you me, you will learn so much there. Just doing that. Alright? So thank you guys. Thank you again. So we can continue the discussion upstairs.
Just to add, we have a very open office and we're very available. So in case you guys have other questions or you want to just come in, you want to see the space, you're more than welcome to do that.
Yep.
It's in Chhatrapur, yes. We have a studio in Chhatrapur.
Alright.
We're leaving a bunch of magazines.